It's February, the month of Valentine's Day, when we celebrate romance and passion. What better time to take another look back through the seemingly endless annals of exes and old flames of my favorite pocket knife packing thinking man's man of action, and remember one more of the many loves of MacGyver. Let's talk about Deborah. She is an exception among the many loves of MacGyver we meet across the show's 7 seasons and 2 TV movies and that promotional web series for Mercedes-Benz, because when we are introduced to Deborah in the 3rd season episode The Negotiator, she is not a past love of MacGyver, but a future one. And there are other things that make Deborah exceptional too, but I'll get to those. We meet Deborah in the 3rd season episode, The Negotiator. Before we meet her, we need to meet this guy, Remick. He represents a real estate developer that wants to build a new marina on this beautiful, unspoiled stretch of shoreline. Unfortunately, for his company that is, MacGyver doesn't think a marina in this area is a good idea, environmentally speaking. MacGyver is leading an environmental survey by the company he works for, the impossibly benevolent Phoenix Foundation, and if that survey concludes, based on the evidence, that the marina would threaten the local ecosystem, then the zoning board ain't gonna let there be no marina. Remick is no dummy, however. He cuts right to the chase and offers MacGyver a bribe. "Come work for us," he says. "We'll pay you lots of money, and that's really all we can offer, just lots of money. But once you've got the money, you won't even care about the destruction of the environment. I'm telling you, it happened to me." MacGyver turns down the bribe and states his intention to continue with his environmental survey. And Remick is like, "You'll pay for this, MacGyver. Only not with money, since you obviously don't have any, your tree-hugging ass." As he leaves the meeting, Remick signals a tow truck parked along the road. When MacGyver drives by shortly thereafter in his Jeep, the tow truck pulls out and attempts to ram MacGyver off the road. Mac thwarts this attack by spraying a fire extinguisher out the side window and foaming over the tow truck's windshield, allowing Mac to drive off while the tow truck goes crashing through a gate. Nice try, Remick, but next time you come after MacGyver, hire a driver who knows how to operate windshield wipers. We cut to the board meeting, or the state environmental agency meeting, or whatever it is, the guys who are going to decide whether or not to let him build the marina, and Remick's boss, the head of the development company, Mr. Knapp, is finishing up his presentation about how awesome his marina is going to be. Then MacGyver gets up and proposes taking 3 more weeks to finish his survey, then doing an 18-month comprehensive study before the board makes any decision on allowing construction to go forward. Remick jumps up out of his seat like, 18 months? But what about our money? Knapp, however, plays it cool. He puts an arm on Remick like, "Simmer down, guy who fails at bribes." Then Knapp stands up and says to MacGyver, "If I thought my marina would become a disaster, I'd throw it all away right now. You see, I realize that there are more important things than money. I invite you, Mr. MacGyver, to continue your very important studies, and we will all patiently await your findings. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America." After the meeting adjourns, Remick pulls Knapp aside and says, "Don't worry, boss. This MacGyver guy is a tough nut, but I'll crack him." Knapp's like, "Listen, doofus, the next board meeting is in 3 weeks, and I've got until then to get MacGyver off my ass about this marina project, so step aside, Otis. It's time for Lex to take over." Knapp goes to an art museum. He walks up to a woman who is admiring a painting and says something to her like, "The kangaroo does burpees under the midnight sun." And she's like, "Are you having a stroke? We're the only 2 people here. Cut it out with the spy talk and let's just have a normal conversation." So Knapp says, "Okay, here's the $250,000 you asked for up front. I'll get you the rest of your $1 million payment after MacGyver is either on our side or out of the way." "Hey, you're beautiful, by the way." "Oh, yeah, I know. That's part of what you're paying for. I'm a negotiator, Mr. Knapp. I'll do whatever it takes to get the best deal possible." "Whatever it takes." "Uh-huh. No, but seriously, you are a smoke show. Holy shit. Just give me the money." Though I do have to ask, why are you so sure you need to hire me in the first place? MacGyver might complete his environmental study and find that it's safe to build your marina after all. Funny story about that, Knapp says. A few years ago, I commissioned my own survey of that site, and it found that my marina will cause that beach MacGyver is worried about to wash away. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you were definitely a villain and not just innocently misguided. Thanks for the money. Jesus Christ, you are a hottie. Thanks for the money. So this negotiator lady starts spying on MacGyver. She watches him at the beach as he continues his environmental study. She sneaks into his houseboat and snoops around, finds an environmentalist newsletter that he subscribes to, overhears MacGyver's Phoenix Foundation colleague Nikki call and leave a message on his answering machine, and plants a bug in a wall outlet. Later, in her swanky penthouse apartment, negotiator lady types up some notes on her computer. Her research has informed her that MacGyver is a loner and athletic. She saw all that hockey equipment at the boathouse. As she's typing, MacGyver comes home, which she hears thanks to the bug she planted. MacGyver sits down with his trusty old guitar, which we have never seen ever before in the entire series, and starts figuring out some absolutely first-rate dental office waiting room music. Negotiator lady continues writing up her MacGyver profile. She lists her options for getting MacGyver to do what Knapp wants him to do. Buy him off? Didn't work when Remick tried it. Scare him off. Ask that tow truck driver with the frosted windshield how that one went. Love him off. Now we might have us an episode plot. She gets to work remaking herself into the kind of woman MacGyver would be into. Right now, her vibe is supermodel Leona Helmsley, not exactly Mac's type. So she lets her hair down, gets herself a sweet bomber jacket with a wool lining, and goes out and buys herself a used Volkswagen. Then she puts on her most convincing tradwife costume, enrolls in the same art class as MacGyver, and arranges a little meet-cute, accidentally knocking over her paintbrushes so Mac can kindly pick them up for her. They make small talk, then she sets the hook by casually mentioning that she's involved with the Darwin Society, publishers of that newsletter she found during her snoop around at the houseboat. MacGyver's like, "You care about the environment too?" And so begins a whirlwind romance, as MacGyver and negotiator lady, who tells Mac that her name is Deborah, do all the things people falling in love in cheesy TV shows and movies do. Loiter next to public fountains, draw sports-themed caricatures of each other, reluctantly pose for photographs on the steps of public buildings, and film commercials for Time Life's Ultimate Love Song collection.
Imagine owning the world's greatest love song.
Deborah tags along with MacGyver to the survey site. She says, "Come on, MacGyver, you told me you've already been offered bribes and chased by tow trucks. What if the people behind this marina project tried to kill you next? Is it really worth it?" And MacGyver says, "Yes, it is. For you see, I care more about preserving the natural world than I do about letting a bunch of rich scumbags build a new place to park their yachts." I like MacGyver a lot, you guys. MacGyver notices Nikki setting explosives and runs over like, "Nikki, how many times do I have to tell you not to play with the explosives and to let the explosives experts handle the explosives?" Nikki says, "Oh, come on, MacGyver. I just wanted to speed up the explosive setting process. I don't have all day to hang around. And before I go, I just want to see some explosives explode. Explosively." Deborah's like, "Explosives, eh?" Nikki steps up to Deborah and introduces herself. "Hi, you must be MacGyver's new girlfriend. I'm his completely platonic female co-star, but only for this season. In fact, this is my last episode, which sucks because I'm awesome." I like Nikki a lot, you guys. After Nikki walks away, Deborah says, "You were kind of hard on her about the explosives thing, weren't ya?" And MacGyver says, "I don't take it very well when people I care about take unnecessary risks." Deborah's like, "People you care about, huh? You fucking her?" MacGyver assures Deborah that he and Nikki are just close friends. Deborah's like, "Just close friends, eh?" That night, Deborah does her hair up nice, puts on a fur coat, and breaks into Nikki's apartment and murders a dog. Which just shows you how smart she is, because if anyone happened to see her coming or going from Nikki's place, they'd just report a stylishly icy high society type, and no one would ever suspect that MacGyver's new girlfriend, wholesomely beautiful and approachable girl next door Deborah, had anything to do with it. Later on, Deborah's back in her girlfriend gear, and she and MacGyver are smooching on the couch when a tearful Nikki calls to tell Mac about how someone broke in and stabbed her neighbor's dog. I hope you're happy, Deborah. You didn't just kill a dog. You killed the pet sitting service Nikki's trying to start up as a side hustle. Do you know how hard it is to afford a nice apartment on your own in Vancouver pretending to be Los Angeles? On what Pete pays her? Killing the dog fails to scare MacGyver away from this nap business, so Deborah makes a bomb and plants it on MacGyver's boat. Not his houseboat, his boat. Mac is preparing to take the boat out. I guess he's going fishing or something. Deborah's like, you know, they're probably gonna end up building that marina anyway. Why not just give up and let the rich people do what they want? MacGyver's like, just give up and let the rich people do what they want? Oh my God, can you imagine how much this country would go to shit if we ever did that? Ha ha ha! Anyway, are you sure you don't want to come out on the boat with me? No! Oh, no, you go right ahead. I'll just remain here on the dock, a safe distance away. Safe distance from what? From the... Hey, guess what? I love you. Don't stay out on the water too long. Remember, it's your turn to cook dinner tonight. Then MacGyver takes the boat out into the harbor, and Deborah pulls her remote detonator out of her pocket and pushes the button, and the boat goes boom. I guess she decided to go out for dinner instead. MacGyver is not killed, however. He's rushed to the hospital, where the doctor informs Pete and Nikki, and Deborah, of course, who as MacGyver's devoted girlfriend is there too, that MacGyver is miraculously unharmed from being on an exploding boat. The only thing is, he suffered some flash burn to his eyes, so he's temporarily blind. His sight should return in a few days. Pete's like, can we see him? The doctor says, yeah, he just can't see you. For a few days, like I said. They go into MacGyver's room to say hi. Deborah's like, I can't believe you survived that explosion. I just can't believe it. I'm in total disbelief that you're still alive. In a good way, honey. Pete and Nikki lament the lack of evidence for the cause of the boat explosion, just like Nikki's dog murder and the tow truck incident. They suspect Knapp is behind it all somehow, but they can't prove anything. Speaking of Knapp, Deborah shows up for a secret rooftop meeting with him. Knapp says, hey, so it's been almost 3 weeks and the next board meeting is soon, and MacGyver's gonna be a pretty sympathetic witness if he shows up all blind and shit, so if you're gonna kill him, you should do it soon. Deborah says, don't worry, after he gets out of the hospital, I'm gonna take him on a romantic getaway up the coast and run his Jeep over a cliff. Knapp says, sounds good, and that takes care of that. Good meeting. MacGyver gets released from the hospital, and as he and Deborah are on their way up the coast, Pete and Nikki are at the Phoenix Foundation going over the forensics file from the investigation into the killing of the dog. Apparently, there was lynx hair found at the scene, and since Nikki doesn't own a lynx coat, and lynxes aren't known to use stabbing weapons to kill dogs, there's only one logical conclusion. The person who killed the dog was a woman. Because fur coats are just for ladies. And Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA, but why would they kill a dog? They're baby faces. Pete's like, so the dog killer was a woman. You know who else is a woman? Deborah. And just like that, Pete and Nikki decide that Deborah is trying to kill MacGyver. And, I mean, they're totally right. Which just goes to show that you can still get the correct answer, even if your logic is a little shaky. Take that, Spock. Nikki calls MacGyver on his car phone. Ooh, look at the big shot with a mobile phone in 1988. But Deborah quietly reaches down and turns off the phone before Nikki can warn MacGyver. She says, the call must have gotten disconnected because of this nasty storm we're driving through. Oh well, you can call Nikki back when we get to the lodge that we're definitely driving to. Seeing a police roadblock up ahead that she'd rather not deal with, Deborah says to MacGyver, you know what? Maybe you should call Nikki back right now. We passed a gas station a few minutes ago. Let's go there so you can use the payphone. Mac's like, thank you so much, babe. You are just the most understanding girlfriend ever. And from there, Deborah turns around, drives to an abandoned warehouse, parks inside, and says, okay, here we are, MacGyver. Let's go use the phone. They get out of the car and she tries to kill him with a knife, doggy style. But Mac's finely honed ears hear the spring-loaded blade pop out, and he dodges at the last second, knocks Deborah down, and crawls away and hides. MacGyver's like, "Is this because I didn't cook dinner?" Deborah, fully mask off as a ruthless killer now, stalks MacGyver around the warehouse. Mac takes the bandages off of his injured eyes, and he can kinda see, though his vision isn't the best. He manages to make some noise and send Deborah off looking in the wrong direction, giving him time to run back to the Jeep and set a little trap for her using his jumper cables, the Jeep's battery, and some antifreeze, which he spills all over the ground under and around the Jeep. As she continues to search for MacGyver, she finds his discarded eye bandages and cries out as lightning flashes outside in a moment of exquisitely over-the-top cheese. "How about it, MacGyver? Am I a sight for sore eyes or what?" Peak MacGyver, that. Flawless. His trap set, MacGyver reveals himself from behind the Jeep and calls Deborah over. She approaches cautiously, telling MacGyver that it didn't have to be this way. She's a negotiator, and she gave him chances to walk away, but instead he had to be a hero. Mac hears the splash as she steps into the pool of antifreeze he released from the Jeep, and he drops one end of the jumper cable into the liquid, instantly electrocuting Deborah into unconsciousness. MacGyver kicks the cable away, grabs the knife out of Deborah's hand, and says, "I think it's about time we renegotiate." Now that is a breakup. I'd compare it to a Taylor Swift song, but I'm not actually familiar with Taylor Swift's catalog, and I don't want to speak of that which I do not know. Besides, they filmed the series in Canada, so wouldn't it be more proper to compare it to, like, an Alanis Morissette song? Or Avril Lavigne, maybe? All this time she was pretending so much for Mac's happy ending. A short time later, at the board meeting, MacGyver, Nikki, and Pete make a dramatic late entrance. Mac announces that his environmental survey justifies that further 18-month study he pitched last time. Not that it really matters now, since Mr. Knapp is going to be in prison for a lot longer than 18 months. Knapp is like, "What am I going to prison for? I didn't do shit. My only crime is loving Marinas too much. You have no evidence that I did anything wrong." And MacGyver's like, "Oh, yes we do. Direct testimony. Bring her in, boys." And in walk a couple of cops with Deborah, who has flipped on Knapp. She says to Knapp, "Don't be so surprised. I'm a negotiator. Testifying against you was the best deal I could make." Knapp sinks back into his chair, and I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, I'm going to have to hire a better lawyer because there's no way a fuck-up like Remick is getting me out of this one. No, wait, he's thinking, damn, I should have just hired a hitman to kill MacGyver instead of paying an assassin to give him the girlfriend experience. No, he's thinking, why did they bring Deborah here? Sure, it's a dramatic way to reveal she's agreed to turn state's evidence against me, but this isn't a court. That's not how any of this works. Deborah and MacGyver share one final look before she's led away, and we end on a freeze frame of MacGyver's face that says, conjugal visits are unlikely, but not entirely off the table. The Negotiator is another of my favorite episodes of MacGyver, ridiculous and terrible in the most irresistible and compelling ways. And like many of the other episodes I've examined in this series, to go along with the so bad it's good elements, there are also a few bits in here that are just plain good. This time, most of those relate to the characters. Being an action-adventure series centered on a single hero who mostly works alone, the original MacGyver doesn't have that big of a supporting cast. The only series regular other than Richard Dean Anderson is Dana Elcar, who plays Pete, MacGyver's boss at the Phoenix Foundation and one of his closest friends. There are lots of recurring characters, Jack Dalton, Penny Parker, Nikki here in Season 3, Mac's arch-nemesis Murdoch, but they each only appear in a relative handful of episodes during the course of the series. The only consistently depicted relationship MacGyver has with another character is with Pete. Because of that, and because of the wonderful chemistry between Anderson and Elcar, many of the show's best moments involve interactions between those characters. In The Negotiator, we see Pete behaving protectively toward MacGyver. Pete takes an active interest in the investigations into the tow truck incident and the break-in and dog killing at Nikki's place. When MacGyver almost gets blown up, Pete shows up at the hospital, and when the doctor asks if he's next of kin, Pete says, basically, yes. I'm the closest thing to family MacGyver has. Their interactions after MacGyver is temporarily blinded are tinged with humor, but speak to the deep bond the two men have. After both Deborah and Nikki kiss MacGyver goodbye at the hospital, Pete says, I'll spare you the kiss. It's Pete who brings MacGyver home to the houseboat after he's released from the hospital. Clearly concerned about MacGyver's ability to get along by himself with his eye injury, Pete offers to let Mac stay with him at his place. And after initially leaving when Deborah arrives, Pete pops back in with an offer to run to the grocery store to pick up some bean curd or tofu. Aren't bean curd and tofu the same thing? That doesn't matter. The point is, Pete's trying. He's looking out for his friend, and his sometimes prickly but always caring relationship with MacGyver is one of the best parts of the series, and it's nicely displayed in this episode. But speaking of relationships, the main feature of The Negotiator is Mac's relationship with Deborah, played to soap opera villain perfection by Christian Alfonso. Like I said earlier, this is really the only time we see MacGyver in a romantic relationship in the present tense. Deborah's not an ex-girlfriend, she's a girlfriend, a right-now girlfriend. And sure, their relationship is built on a foundation of manipulation, deceit, hidden sadism, and multiple acts of attempted murder, but who the hell are you to judge? Is your relationship perfect? The nature of MacGyver and Deborah's relationship gives the episode a somewhat novel twist. Besides Knapp, who hires her to get close to MacGyver, no other character knows the truth about Deborah until the end. We spend the whole episode knowing that MacGyver is in danger, that Deborah isn't who she seems to be, but MacGyver doesn't figure it out until she's about to take a swipe at him with a knife. Not only that, we actually spend more time following Deborah than we do MacGyver, which, for this episode, makes her feel more like the protagonist than Mac does. There are some holes in this story. It wouldn't be a MacGyver episode if it was too well plotted, after all. Despite her apparent reputation as the best in the business and the lengths she's willing to go to, Deborah doesn't seem all that great at her job. She has MacGyver's total trust and free access to his home, yet when she decides that her only remaining option is to kill him, the best she can come up with is planting a bomb on his boat? Also, we're never offered an explanation for how MacGyver managed to survive that boat explosion with nothing more than some dramatically convenient temporary blindness to show for it. At the hospital, Pete mentioned something about nearby divers who pulled MacGyver out of the water, but that doesn't account for how MacGyver was alive and in one piece to be pulled out of the water to begin with. Despite those and other weak points, the MacGyver-Deborah relationship provides the series with changes in pace and perspective that mostly work. There are plenty of contrivances and conveniences. That falling in love montage does a lot of heavy lifting, as well as a few cliches. But I do appreciate the way the episode, which was written by Calvin Clements Jr. and directed by Charles Correll, avoids one cliché in particular. Often in stories like this, especially in episodes of action-adventure shows like this, when a female villain gets close to the male hero, her defeat will come when she loses her nerve at the moment of decision, because she's fallen in love with the hero. The Negotiator could easily have gone that way, shown us that after pretending to fall in love with MacGyver, Deborah has fallen for him for real. But it doesn't. There's never even a hint that Deborah's determination to do whatever is necessary to buy, scare, love, or kill off MacGyver wavers for a moment. Now, I should mention that we do see Deborah again. She returns the following year in the season finale to take revenge on MacGyver in the episode Unfinished Business, which is a clip show with the Deborah plot merely providing the frame. At the climax of that episode, Deborah confesses that the reason she failed in her task to kill MacGyver was because she went soft, started to develop genuine feelings for Mac. She lost her killer instinct because, unlike all her other victims, she just couldn't find anything about MacGyver to hate. I consider that something of a retcon, which is fine, to be clear. Retcons aren't the most elegant storytelling device, but I don't have a problem with them in principle. Plus, it's MacGyver. If you care that much about continuity, especially across multiple seasons, you should probably just watch another show. Because it's pretty clear in The Negotiator that Deborah doesn't fall in love with MacGyver, and MacGyver doesn't defeat her because she can't bring herself to finish him off. He defeats her because he outsmarts her. Either way, though, defeats isn't the word you want to be using to describe an interaction between two romantic partners, unless it's in the context of a good-natured game of paper, rock, scissors to determine who gets to choose the movie you're watching tonight. Respect the result either way, and don't carry around any resentment. If you lose, don't be a sore loser, and watch the movie your partner picks with an open mind. And if you win, be gracious in victory and don't gloat. But I digress. My point is, how sad that the only present-day relationship we see MacGyver having is with someone who's been hired to kill him. I know that as the protagonist of a 1980s action-adventure series, he's doomed by his genre to be alone, but it's still not fair. MacGyver has so much to offer a partner. He's a good-looking dude, he's smart, he's morally upstanding, socially conscious, involved in his community, and he's a bona fide hero. How many lives has he saved using only his wits and his trusty Swiss Army knife? When I think about it, MacGyver's closest relationship, even closer than his friendship with Pete, might be with that Swiss Army knife. He depends on it. It's always there when he needs it. It's his constant companion. He definitely misses it when it's gone. Sounds like love to me. It's just too bad for MacGyver that a pocket tool can't love you back. At least not this one.